Welcome to Mark My Words, study for week 1, and congratulations. This is the Reverend Dr. David Chotka of Spirit Equipped Ministries. I am here to commend you because you've done something remarkable. You have worked through your first week of taking a dive into the beginnings of the ministry of Jesus Christ. Let me start by stating that the best learning is learning that is shared. When a fresh discovery is made and added to the group's discovery, it creates a unique kind of energy. Learning about the gospel never ends. What is also more than clear is that the gospels have a concrete context, a framework that lies behind the belief system that was part of early Judaism. If someone showed up in our culture, dressed in a 700-year-old suit of armor, we would assume that the whole thing was part of a play or some sort of an historical reenactment society, etc., etc., etc. We would not take that person very seriously except as an actor in a troupe. This summer, my family and I visited the location of the birthplace of our nation, Canada. There was a man dressed in period costume standing outside the very buildings in which the nation's founding documents were signed by the framers of our British North America Act. Well, I spoke with him. He used the accent of that era, told me that he was awaiting a particular date more than 150 years ago, and spoke about the issues of the present day as if they were happening in real time. It was an enjoyable way to learn history, but I was under absolutely no illusion that the fellow was doing anything than playing a part for the entertainment of tourists. Now, this is what makes the beginning of Mark's Gospel so very fascinating. John the Baptist showed up dressed like someone from 800 years before. Yet the first century people of Israel took him more than seriously. There was something different about this wild man. He used the very history of the nation and how Israel entered the promised land to abandon sin to call the nation to re-enter the very same land through the very same river and start again. He dressed like the 8th century BC prophet Elijah, who had rebuked the false faith of the king and queen to call a nation back to faith in the one God. Now, from these two snippets of Hebrew history, the perspectives of yesterday's leaders and events, he pointed toward a future. The fulfillment of all Jewish history through the arrival of the long-awaited Messiah. That history resonated rather than merely educated or amused like that fellow did with me in Prince Edward Island. When we, as modern persons, read the Gospels, we do so as those who simply don't know and don't live in that history. Anyone who was a Hebrew of any kind from that era would have felt the national history pull at their very inner beings as they crossed over to the other side of the Jordan where John was baptizing. They would have been moved through a combination of faith in the one God of Israel and prompted by a sense of national belonging as thousands upon thousands of fellow believers immersed their very bodies together in the same waters that had been crossed by Joshua's generation. When these events took place in ancient Israel, those participants were moved beyond ordinary emotion. Those baptisms were what you call defining moments. Now, the purpose of this study is for us, the learners, to enter into the worldview of the New Testament and not merely to study an idea or two, but to actually feel their faith and to recommit to our own growth. Let me encourage you to make sure that you do 3 things in your weekly studies of this marvelous book called Mark. Number 1, make sure to read the whole paraphrase aloud from beginning to end. Read it out loud by yourself, and then have it read to you, and then read it with other people in the room. Number 2, compare this paraphrase to a classic translation that is more rigid to ensure you are accurately hearing the words in a strict, literal translation. Number 3, finally, share what comes to you as you listen, and talk with each other about what surfaces from those 2 very different kinds of listening. The goal of studying a book of the Bible is not that you agree on every single point. The goal is that your faith grows sweeter as you walk with God and as your spiritual friends grow together with you. When you get to the study guide at the close of this week's chapter, let the questions there open up a conversation. You need not answer every question. What is needful is that everyone shares what they have learned to make their walk with God just a little deeper than it was before. Enjoy the study. Mark my words. These are my words. What are yours?